though.
Oh yeah.
To provide the name.
Today's learning should also be as chos for Refuah Shalema for Yisrael Yosef ben Leah. Okay, we're in the 7th Perek of Berachos. We're up to the 2nd Mishnah. Nashim v'avadim k'tanim, women, slaves, and minors, ein mizamnin aleim, you don't count them towards the minimum requirement of 3 people to make a zimun.
Why not slaves?
Because slaves generally have the same obligation in all mitzvah. Eved Kanani
Not
has the same.
Ivri.
Not Eved
So
Ivri.
Ivri would count. Like
An Eved Ivri would count. An Eved Kanani is generally in the same class as women. Ad kama mizamnin, how much does one have to eat in order to bench, to join the Zimun? Ad kizayas, he has to eat a kizayas, that's the Tanna Kama. Yehuda Emer, no, ad kibetz, he has to eat an egg's worth, which is twice as much. Mishnah Gimel. Ketzad mizamnin, what is the text that one says when they make a Zimun? So Begimel, the first Tana says if you have 3 people, Emer Nevarech. So he'll say, let us together bless Hashem, because without him they can't make a zimun. They need all 3 are necessary.
That's why it says Rabbi Nevarech, or some say Nevarech benching.
Right. By Begimel v'hu, so the Tana of the Mishnah says if you have 3 without him, Omer Barachu, he'll say you should bless, excluding himself from the implication, because they don't need him to make the zimun. There are 3 or more without him, which is something the Gemara says that we do not do. Because why exclude yourself from the group of people that are going to bless Hashem? Include yourself in the group. Then Basara, if you have 10, Amar Nevarech Elokeinu. Then again, you say Nevarech because it's only 10, including himself, so he has to include himself in the group. And we add Elokeinu because since you have 10 people, you have a minyan, so there's Shechina there, so we mention Hashem's name. Basara v'hu, if it's 10 people without him. Amar Baruchu, then again same setup. He'll say Baruchu, you should bless, because the people he's talking to, even without him, are capable are a minyan, and they could make their own zimun. So then the Mishnah projects, which is the halacha that we follow, echad asara v'echad asara ribua. It doesn't matter if you have 10 or 10 thousands. Doesn't matter how many people you have. You say the same. Elokeinu is all you add. Then the Mishnah continues and disagrees with that and says, no, that the more people you have, the more you will say. So, b'meya, if you have 100 people, Aymer Nevarech Hashem Elokeinu. He uses, since there are more people, so he says it's appropriate to say a more powerful language or a reference to Hashem. So you say Hashem and Elokeinu together in the Zimun, and again, it's still Nevarech because he needs to include himself in the 100 people that are blessing, because without him there aren't 100 people. B'meya v'hu, if there are 100 without him, Omer Baruchu, he tells the 100 people, you should bless, again, Hashem Elokeinu. Be'elef, if there are 1,000, and he says again, it goes up, Omer Nevarech Hashem Elokeinu Elokei Yisrael. You add now, since there are more people, you add Elokei Yisrael, the God of Israel. And it's Nevarech, it's we should, because he's part of the 1,000. But Elafahu, if there are 1,000 without him, Amar Baruchu, he said, you guys should bless Hashem Elokeinu Elokei Yisrael. Beribua, if you have 10,000 people, Amar, he says, Nevarech, we should bless Hashem Elokeinu Elokei Yisrael, the same as 1,000, I'm sorry. And Ribu is a myriad or a 10,000, whichever word you prefer. Beribua of, so he's saying Beribua, but if you have 10,000, he says Nevarech Hashem Elokeinu Elokei Yisrael. He adds Elokei Tzvakos, the God of the heavenly hosts, Hayoshiv Akruvim, who sits on the Kruvim, and Alamazon Shachalnu is what we were saying all along, but we just finally said the full sentence over here because we've gotten to the end of the list. So again, by 10,000, he adds another more language of Hashem's name, because there are more people. Beribu, if you have 10,000 without him, Amar Baruchu, then he'll say to them, you should bless. And whatever the leader says, that's how they respond. So in the example we're in now with 10,000 people, they say Baruch Hashem Elokeinu Elokei Yisrael, Elokei Tzvakos Yoshev Akruvim. The same Alamazon Shachan, on the food that we ate, the same. What he says, they say back. Rabbi Yossi Glili Omer, and this Mishnah is Rabbi Yossi Glili who says Lefi Reiv Hakal Hin Mevarchen, that based on how large the group is, that is how they bless Hashem. And they say more descriptive names of Hashem. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, b'makelos, in groups, Baruch Hu Elokeinu Hashem. You should bless Hashem. So based on the size of the group is the blessing that they give. Rabbi Kiva says, no, Mamatzina Babesa Knesset, just like we find in Shul, Echem Merubim ve'Echem Watim, whether there's a lot of people in the minyan or there's only a few people, Baruch Hu es Hashem, that we just say Baruch Hu es Hashem, we don't add any other names.
What does Mamatzinu mean?
Just like, literally what we find, or just like.
Just like.
And right in the shul,
isn't that like if you find two things, they'll say.
So right in the Yud Gimel Midas that we say before Mizmor Shir, right? One of the things is we have a Mamatzina, which is literally if you have two ideas, you can pull a common denominator and say just like it applies over here, it should apply over there. Kal v'chomer is
that the one you're referring to?
Binyan Av is really the one I'm referring to. Kal v'chomer is if something applies by a more lenient case, it will certainly apply by a strict case. A Mamatzinu is more equal. If it's here, it's also going to be equally there. Rabbi Shmuel argues on a side point that the correct thing to say in the basic Knesset is Baruch Hu es Hashem HaMevayrach, that we add the word HaMevayrach, but he agrees that in the basic Knesset we don't make any distinction between 10 or 10,000 people. You're going to say the same thing no matter how many people are in the minyan. Okay. Mishnah Dalet. Shleisha she'achlu ke'echad. If a group of 3 people eat together, ein r'shai l'chalik, they can't split up because they have an obligation to make a zimun. If they split up, they won't be able to do it. V'chein arba, v'chein chamisha. It's true also of 4 or 5, because if one person would leave, as much as the remaining 3 or 4 people could make a zimun, but he can't make a zimun. Shisha.
And the definition of eating together is for example, if you're at a restaurant and there's a couple of Jews eating near you, that's not your... The
definition of eating together is not particularly clear, but yes, your case of where you happen to be eating in a restaurant with other people would not. Any unarranged sort of time when people end up eating together for sure doesn't count. It has to be a formal, we're sitting down together, which either could be if you made up before that we'll meet at the restaurant, that would count, or if you had some sort of formal arrangement where everyone's sitting together.
But you have obviously you can have the option to, hey, you want to bench together and raise the.
Yes.
We do that here when people are eating separately.
That may be relevant tomorrow.
That's a little bit better, because since one person makes kiddush for the whole group,
right,
it kind of adds a certain level of formality that you wouldn't have if it was just a Tuesday night dinner when everyone happened to be eating together. You could, yes. Shisha, if you have a group of 6 people, Nechalkin, now they could split because you could make two smaller zimunim, each with 3. Adasar, until you get up to 10, right, so you have 6, 7, 8, or 9, you could split as long as, when 9 technically could split into 3 groups if you want to make 3 zimunim each with 3, until you hit 10. By 10, Vasara in Nechalkin, by 10 you can't split anymore because 10 is better than 3, you could say Elokeinu. Ad Shiaz Esrim, until you get up to 20. If you have 20 again, you could split into 2 groups of 10, and you didn't lose any zimun. Fine. Mishnah Hey. Final Mishnah in the Perek. Shtei chaboris. If you have 2 groups of people, that are eating in the same building or room, bizman shemiktsas and royin elu es elu. If the 2 groups can see each other, harelu mitzdarfen, then zimun, then they would join to make a single zimun. V'imlav, if they're right, either around the corner or in different rooms in the same building, then each one would make their own zimun by themselves. They're not considered to be eating together. And then going back really to a more of a 6th parak type of idea of making brachos on individual foods. So in the times of the Mishnah and the Gemara, they would not drink their wine as is, they would dilute it with water. So The Mishnah is saying over here, you would not make a hagafen on wine until you dilute it with water to make it the ideal way to drink it. Divrei Eliezer, so Eliezer shita, that the wine has a certain chashivas, it's a special status, but that's only when it's properly prepared. The Chum say mevarchen, even if you're drinking it in a non-ideal form, still wine inherently has a certain status to it, and therefore it would get its own bracha of hagafen. Okay.